So I want to give you an update of what's going on with Donald Trump's tariff and trade war with China. Apparently, President Xi in China won't take Donald Trump's call. That's the subject of today's video, and this is the headline. Trump and Xi are locked in a standoff over direct trade negotiations, basically. We knew this ahead of time. Trump's probably going to want to negotiate himself. He thinks everyone's his friend.
Putin actually said to me, if you're my friend, I'd hate to see you as my enemy. He said that very strongly. But I had, with all of that, I had a very good relationship with Putin. I had a very good relationship with President Xi, a very good relationship with Kim Jong-un of North Korea. Lots of good relationships. And that's a positive thing. That's not a negative thing. But at the same time, I'm about our country. So that's why we're talking about tariffs. We'll be taking in trillions of dollars.
The myth is that Donald Trump is an excellent business person, but as the reality sets in, Xi won't even take Trump's calls. This is the subtitle. The president's refusal to allow informal diplomatic outreach to bridge the gap between the White House and Beijing is slowing progress toward a possible deal. Basically, in the last statement, China said, okay, if we're going to do any kind of deal, let's each pick a representative, right? Xi doesn't want to talk to Trump, basically. We know that Trump does want to talk to Xi. We're honored, but we're not talking to you. So send someone. We'll send someone, negotiate out the stuff. When Xi and Trump do meet, we'll sign something. It'll be a big public ceremony, and that'll be it. But it looks like they don't want to talk to Trump. This is the details. President Donald Trump says he expects a deal over skyrocketing tariffs with Beijing, quote, over the next 3 or 4 weeks.
Negotiations are with China. Are they in the early stages, or are you inching closer now to actually making a deal on tariffs?
I think that we will make a deal with China. I think we've had some very good talks, but we will have some very good talks remaining. And, I view it, and some people say, oh, rush. I think we have a lot of time. I think we have plenty of time. But we have very, very good. You saw Japan was here yesterday. We had Italy today. We had a great conversation with the Prime Minister. We've had very good talks yesterday with Mexico. Talking with everybody. The problem is it's only so many hours in the day. I think we're going to make a deal with China. We're going to make a deal with everybody. And if we don't make a deal, we'll just set a target, and we'll live with that, and it'll be fine.
How much time do you think that you have?
I would think over the next 3 or 4 weeks. I think maybe the whole thing could be concluded. You have to understand, we're a big, if you think of us as a big, beautiful department store before that business was destroyed by the internet. We're a big, beautiful store, and everybody wants a piece of that store.
So that's what Trump says. Next 3 to 4 weeks, we'll have a deal. But that's looking increasingly unlikely. That's coming from Politico. He says here, he's insisting on a one-on-one tax with Chinese leader Xi Jinping. So again, Trump wants to talk to Xi Jinping. And this has stifled other diplomatic efforts to halt the worsening trade war between the two global powers, right? Like, Trump wants to talk one-on-one, but it just doesn't seem to be happening. The president won't authorize White House delegates to engage with Chinese officials in Beijing, right? So Trump won't give any approval to anyone to go speak to China. And China said before, I told you guys about this, that if we do speak to anyone from the Trump people, we want to make sure they have, authority from the president to actually make a deal, not just come and say, hello, how are you doing? Will you meet with Trump? Says here, so this was according to 2 former State Department officials, so a couple of different sources, and an industry official. So we got 3 people saying this. Also says here, the Senate has yet to confirm an ambassador to China. Wow, we don't even have an ambassador to China. That's awful. So we don't have a trade rep to China. We don't have an ambassador to China, and Trump won't appoint someone or approve it. He wants to do it himself, but good luck with that. Trump has not appointed anyone else to lead the talks with Beijing, and the White House isn't reaching out to the Chinese embassy to begin discussions. So how are we going to make a deal in 3 to 4 weeks if we don't even have anyone and we're not even moving forward? This is crazy. That's why I wanted to go over this with you guys so you understand the lowdown. It says here, the absence of any substantial outreach has frozen meaningful communications, meaning looks like the trade war is going to continue between the two countries, and likelihood of a threatened likelihood of a near-term solution. So yeah, don't expect 3 weeks. Here's a quote here from a former director for China, Taiwan, and Mongolia. So basically someone who's an expert in this stuff from the Obama administration. It says here, the back channels don't work because President Trump doesn't want them to. Yeah, we kind of knew that. Another quote, Trump wants to deal directly with President Xi in the same way he has with President Putin. Interesting. So that is true, right? We have heard reports of before when Trump was president, him and Putin would have these meetings, and we're always curious what they said in said meetings, and could we get the translator notes, etc. So Trump wants a similar kind of thing with Xi, but Xi's not having it. That's kind of interesting. Trump wants to deal directly with President Xi in the same way he has with President Putin. I don't think he's particularly interested in outsourcing the transmission of his views to others. Okay. Trump has repeatedly stated that his interest in talking to or meeting with Xi is to ease trade tensions. I don't know. I mean, okay, so Trump will say he wants to ease trade tensions, but from Trump's point of view, I mean, he's just playing the social media photo op game, right? The same way he likes to take pictures with Putin, he likes to take pictures with Kim Jong-un. I mean, this whole thing's a joke, but I do want to go over this stuff because it does matter. I mean, the trade war is quite serious. The last time we checked, I think the Trump people, they were 145% tariffs on China. And then I heard that some product categories were like 245%. It's like a ridiculous thing. And then China keeps cutting off things that they will trade with the USA. Like I think China's not buying Boeing jets, last I heard. I think China's also not buying maybe gas or something like that. Then Korea, Japan, and China are forming stronger relations and pulling away from the USA. And this is all based on effectively Trump's ego. It says here, but the Chinese leader has appeared to resist those overtures, meaning that Donald keeps, asking for meetings not happening. Instead, Xi focused this week on rallying Southeast Asian countries to strengthen the relationship with China in opposition to U.S. tariffs. This apparent deadlock irks the White House, right? So the first trip from China, President Xi went to Vietnam, Malaysia, spoke to, and strengthened deals in Southeast Asia, which I think is what Trump should be doing, to be perfectly frank. Because if we're talking about, factory jobs and we're talking about, not trading with China, et cetera, we still need things to be made. If you want to get things made that are designed by USA or assembled in USA, you still need things to be made somewhere. Trump's trying to convince you that we're going to bring back all these factory jobs to USA. I personally don't see it happening. It will take a long time. We'll say the fastest they could do it, maybe 4 years. And like, how many are going to, invest into that thing when they know Trump is gone in, a couple of years, right? And then on top of that, if for example, the U.S. economy, because of Trump, goes into a massive recession, and then you have other countries growing market share, right, and growing in their consumers, the U.S. becomes less important. Basically, Trump is weakening our position, and he's just kind of betting the farm on talk with me and Trump alone, and I'll be a hero, I guess. I guess that's what he wants.
The president has made his position on China quite clear, although I do have an additional statement that he just shared with me in the Oval Office. The ball is in China's court. China needs to make a deal with us. We don't have to make a deal with them. There's no difference between China and any other country except they are much larger. And China wants what we have, what every country wants what we have, the American consumer. Or to put it another way, they need our money. So the president, again, has made it quite clear that he's open to a deal with China, but China needs to make a deal with the United States of America.
Well, I mean, you could say that, right? You could say China has all the balls and China has all the cards, and Trump's got nothing, and all he's got is, please talk to me, Xi. I'm not going to say anyone else. This is also what it says, but a conversation between leaders isn't the only way to reach a deal. Okay, what else we got? Informal White House envoys trusted by both Washington and Beijing could set the groundwork. Their unofficial status would grant the officials a degree of flexibility and candor in negotiation with Chinese authorities. That might help speed up trade talks when higher level officials do meet, right? So we keep talking about hash out the details ahead of time, get people who actually can talk. The problem is, no matter what deal that they make, Trump is the kind of person that will just back out on whatever deal. It's kind of ridiculous. Trump's the kind of person that he'll negotiate some sort of deal, he'll sign it, and then he'll act like, the deal's bad, even though he's the one negotiated and signed it, and say the other side cheated, et cetera. But it's really, Trump's the one who's cheating. Here's someone else, former senior U.S. trade negotiator. She says, and this is a trade negotiator who worked with U.S.-China, there are many back channels, including from our business community and former U.S. and Chinese officials, right? So there are many people you could go through, but The stickler is, again, Trump won't approve anyone. Also says here, the White House said its officials are in close contact with authorities in Beijing, but didn't say whether back-channel diplomacy is part of its strategy. Okay, so this is coming from the White House. They say, if the theory is that the White House is stifling discussions, it's just inaccurate, right? So that's their point of view. There are various contacts at staff and senior staff level that continue. And we, as the president has said, welcome discussions. they're pretty vague on their description, though. So for all we know is the White House people are calling up China and say, hey, you know, will Xi talk to Trump? And then China's like, no, we're not talking to Trump. Send someone else. I mean, yeah, I'm sure they're in communication, so I'll concede that. But whether there's anything meaningful, who knows? Here's another quote here. It says, the Chinese bureaucracy will never allow their president to be put in the position where he is surprised or humiliated. Okay, I get that. After the incident with Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky, they're highly alert to the risk that Xi could be humiliated, undercut, or be part of a deal that falls apart on the world stage. So if you guys understand what this is saying, it's basically, from China's perspective, they saw the way that Vance and Trump cheated and treated Zelensky. And, you know, Trump's the kind of person you just don't want to appear in public with or make a deal with unless you know, like, everything's 100%. But even then, it's a bit uncertain.
He should have.
Have you said thank you once?
A lot of times.
No, in this
even
entire
today.
meeting, you said thank you.
Even today.
You went to.
I mean, you guys understand this because the Trump's the kind of person that just drags everyone down with him. So that's a really interesting point to where, you know, from China's perspective, we saw the way you treated other people. We saw the way you treated Ukraine. Where, you know, we don't want to appear in public unless we know, like, 100% you're not going to do that. Boy, that's tough to get an assurance from Trump that you're not going to, you know, treat Xi badly. I mean, okay, so what it says here. It says the Chinese government instead wants an administrative point person, right, who can begin talks on ending the trade war, the tariff war, that is, Bloomberg reported. That same day, Beijing appointed Li Changong, a former assistant commerce minister, as China's new international trade rep. So China's already appointing people, but we're just waiting for Trump to make the move. The appointment may signal Beijing is waiting for Trump to deploy his own envoy. Quote, the lack of credible official channel is the major reason why phone call Trump is seeking with Xi has not happened, right? This is someone from Goldman Sachs. They say here, John Thornton, a former Goldman Sachs president and current executive of the mining company Barrick Gold, has volunteered to engage with Beijing. Okay, so that's someone who wants to represent Trump. So someone who's like interested in gold, Goldman Sachs person. So Goldman Sachs and gold doesn't necessarily mean the same thing, but this particular person happened to work with both. Thornton has a track record of access to senior officials, right? So, and then there's going to be a list of names of different people who want to jump in and represent us with Beijing. So that's the update on what's going on with the trade war. I mean, to be perfectly frank, this is multiple sources. It just sounds like Trump is the big holdup. Trump is the problem, and it's just hard to do business with this guy. He's untrustworthy. So where do we go from here? So far, we've got a standoff. If there's any updates, I'll let you guys know. Just want to let you know what's happening at the moment. So please share your thoughts on this one, and I'll catch you on the next video.